Gary Watts of Nature of Wise.
Hi, Sean. Yeah, thanks for taking the time to have a chat with me.
Oh, that's okay. It's always a pleasure, mate. You've had a long career in music. When was the eureka moment when you wanted to make music, do you think?
It was 1985, 1986.
Hmm.
A chap I used to work with, called Ian Brown, not the Stone Roses one. Um, he was in a band, and I took an interest in what he was doing. And one of the bosses where we were both working at the time had a Casio CZ101 for sale.
Ah,
I thought, oh,
yes.
I'll have that and give it a go. And I did a couple of little guest appearances for Ian's band, and then set up what eventually became Nature of Wires with my best friend Andrew.
Hmm.
And Ian and Andrew are still probably my two best friends to this day.
And did you have any musical training?
Yeah, a little bit, but primary school recorder playing. I learned to read music at an early age, but I can't say it's made a big difference. A little bit of music theory, but everything's done by ear and just how it feels. If a sound works well with another sound, then I just go with it.
How difficult was it to learn the synth and especially the software that goes with it? Because it was Cubase, wasn't it, on the ST that you used originally?
Yeah, I mean, I work in IT and
Yeah.
everything I've ever done has been self-taught. So I've probably picked up some terrible habits along the way. But yeah, it's just by experimenting. I'm a very curious sort of person by nature. Um, yeah, just kicking ideas around, see what works, what doesn't. What does this button do? What happens if I press that? And
Yeah.
sort of thing. And yeah, like you say, it was all Cubase version one on a 3.5 inch floppy disk back in the day on the old Atari, which was rock solid, never crashed once. Um, and then when we took that break at the end of 1994, Windows 95 was just sort of coming out, and I think a lot of us know that and its successor Windows 98 was inherently unstable, and while I had every confidence in going out live with an Atari, I don't think I'd have wanted to do it with a Windows 95 PC. Um, and then when I got back into it in 2014, I had to start all over again, really. All of a sudden, I was using a Mac with Logic. Um, yeah, and that learning process sort of started all over again, really.
What pulled you back into music?
Um, a couple of guys have inspired me. It was a name drop here. It was at Gary Newman's 50th birthday party
Oh.
in Manchester, March the 8th, 2008. And there was a Gary Newman tribute band playing called Young Things Don't Scream, who were very good. And another couple of guys known as Deviant UK,
Hmm.
Jay and Brian. Um, Enjoyed what they did, even though the PA was playing up because some kids had trashed it during the afternoon. Um, Bought the album, got in touch with Jay Smith, the front man, on MySpace the day after, and we stayed in touch ever since. And Jay introduced me in 2014, while I was on honeymoon, bizarrely, to another band called Cypherdyne,
Right.
and I really got into them. So it was just listening to what Jay and the Cypherdyne were doing. I thought, yeah, I like the sound of that. I like the sort of more industrial stuff. Our drummer Tim was into it. He introduced me to Combi Christ a few years earlier.
Hmm.
Um, and that's what got me back into it, really. Just yeah, being inspired by what other people were doing.
How do you treat songwriting now compared to how you used to?
Um, Much the same. I mean, the theory is all the same.
Yeah.
Hardware and software is different. I've only ever been able to write instrumental stuff. I've never been any good with. Well, I certainly can't sing. That's for sure. I've never really been able to write words, so I've always had to rely on other people to write words.
Yeah.
And so when I have done a solo album, it's general until recently, it's generally been ambient instrumental stuff.
Right.
Um, but again, it's just kicking ideas around, coming up with a beat, a bass line, load of root notes, getting someone to overlay some vocals over the top, and then just building the music up around what they've sung, and that's the way
Hmm.
I've always done it.
Right. Okay. Well, you've had quite a few collaborations over the years, haven't you, since you came back?
Yeah, loads. And I think pretty much it's everybody's approached me to say, would you like to work together?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I've met some fantastic people.
Mm.
Too many to mention, really. I mean, notable ones. I'm going to miss somebody out now, aren't I? But you've got Madil Hardis, who's the most incredible soprano,
Mhm.
German lady based in London. We've done some good stuff together. I've written a few with, a couple with Stephen Newton from up in Gateshead,
Yeah.
who everybody knows. Annie from Machina X. We've done a few, and we're looking to write some more to get an album's worth, and then maybe go out playing live. Klaus Larson from Leather Strip. We've written a couple of really good ones with him.
Mm.
Yeah, just loads of others. Collaborations and remixes are, oh God, yeah, probably form the majority of what you'll find up on Spotify. There's about 260 tracks up there.
Blimey. Well, you've been busy then.
Yeah, that's all coming back in the last sort of 8, 9 years, really. Yeah,
Yeah.
been trying to slow down, but it's not working out very well.
Well, the Digital Silence album, so you approached it in a slightly different way, didn't you? So you were using AI as an aid there. So do you want to tell us how you got involved with the AI side of things?
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing that it's a bit late to the table, apparently, when it comes to the AI stuff. It's not something I ever considered, but I got
Mm.
involved in the Discord group with 3 or 4 other guys, and they were saying, "Well, you really need to look at this. This is a real game changer." I'm like, "Nah, you're all right. I've got my method of doing stuff, and I've got my collaborators." And at the same time, I was thinking about doing another solo album. I thought, what am I going to do here then? I've just done in the last 2 years, I've done 2 ambient instrumental albums. Didn't really want to do that again. I'd sort of been there and done that, so I started tinkering around with this AI. Say I'm a curious sort of person. I thought,
Mm.
what can it do?
Yeah.
I'm actually quite surprised at how advanced it had become. This was about June, July last year, and it's come on in leaps and bounds even since then. And I thought, okay, let's just kick a few ideas around and see what it can spit out. And what it
Mm.
spat out was pretty terrible. And I thought, well, okay, it's given me some basic structure. And the vocal stems were reasonably okay. They had a little bit of grit to them. And I wanted to write something dark, so a dark wave EBM, purely because that's exactly the sort of music I like to listen to myself. So the
Yeah.
whole thing is very self-indulgent. Um, and after many, many iterations and throwing 99% of what it spat out in the bin, I came up with a few tracks I thought I could do something with. I knew I was going to have to remix the whole lot and recreate the music from scratch because the quality just
Yeah.
wasn't enough. And of course, it had to sound like a Nature of Wires album.
Yeah.
The danger is that I think lots of people already are just taking whatever AI spits out and uploading it to Spotify and saying, this is all my own work. Well, I was never going to do that.
Yeah.
And I was never going to hide the fact that I've got an AI vocalist. Because I just wouldn't have felt right releasing all that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Release an album and say this is all me. Well, it wasn't. Very upfront and honest about it. Yeah, I had to change some of the words around. I had to do quite a bit of work. I mean, the amount of work it took for each song was slightly longer than if I'd done it with a real vocalist, because I had to pull everything apart and reassemble it and
Yeah.
work quite hard to make the vocals sort of cut through and sound half decent and make sense. So yeah, it was an interesting experiment.
Yeah.
I thought, yeah, this is. I think I'm not gonna do it again. It was always only ever going to be a one-off thing. And Luca's back firmly back in his box now, probably never to be seen again.
So,
But it was good. So we got
sorry to interrupt you, Gary, but to the uninitiated, because I've never used AI to make music, I've been dabbling with art actually, because I'm an artist, and it was one of those things where I just thought, yeah, I'll give it a go, and you do get some really good results. So it's not as simple as just pressing a button that's labeled "Make me a record," is it? There's more to it than that.
If you want to do a proper job, yeah. Yeah. I mean, you can press a button, stick in a few prompts, and it will give you a song.
Right.
But it'll be terrible. So yeah. I wanted to make a decent job of it. And like I said, it had to sound like a Nature of Wires album. because I've got a track record and a signature sound, apparently, if I was a complete newbie and nobody knew what I sounded like, it'd be a different story. But
Yeah.
I couldn't do that.
How did you keep it consistent across all the different tracks? Because obviously, so to my mind, you get a different result every time you put the same prompt in, just slightly different. So things like the vocals, especially, how did you keep those, the same?
Yeah, and this is why 99% of it went in the bin. Because each having done, I think the title track was the first one. I liked the way Lucas sounded. I hadn't given him a name by then. I thought he had a bit of an accent, so I invented him as a half Hungarian, half Romanian guy that works for an engineering company in Dagenham. Total figment of my imagination. I thought, yeah, I like the way he sounds. Who does he sound like? Probably a combination of every industrial singer that's ever breathed, but I don't think he sounds like any one person. But and then I go, okay, let's do the next one. Well, that sounds like a completely different bloke, so that's going in the bin. And it was just lots and lots of hours, hour after hour, just trying to get that bit of consistency so it sounds like the same guy all the way through.
Right. Do you think it would ever be possible for it to output something that you'd get in a studio? So you'd have like the drums as one output, vocals another one, guitars, so you could remix it more
Yeah,
accurately.
it's getting that way. I mean, there
Mm.
are stem separation software websites. So when I got this raw output, I thought, well, I'm going to have to separate the vocals,
Mm.
so I can put my own music behind them. And so I used I think the website's fader.com, fadr.com, to do the separation. And so it'll separate the drums, the bass, the synths, vocals. And it did a reasonable job. And when you listen to the vocals in isolation, there are a lot of little artifacts and glitches, but it did sort of serendipitously, if that's a word, give the vocals that little bit of grit, which actually worked quite well. And once you've got everything mixed anyway, you can't hear all these weird artifacts. And sometimes the beginnings of vocal lines would be missing because separation wasn't good enough. So I had to sort of manually create those. And that took a lot of time. But the guys, the people I know who are still working on this sort of stuff, and they're sort of keeping me posted as to developments in the AI environment.
Yeah.
I've sort of taken a bit of a back seat now, but the quality, even since I did digital silence, these things have come on in leaps and bounds, and the output is much better. The raw output's much better. The separation quality is much better. It's going that way. I mean, I'm neither for nor against AI, really. I've seen what it can do. It's not something I need to do, but it ain't going anywhere. So
that's my like I said. I write books, and occasionally I need illustrations, and it's quite a lot of money to pay artists. Even though I draw myself, I don't have the time to draw my own illustrations, and you do have to pay people to do them. It's quite expensive. So I thought, oh, hang on a minute, this looks good, free artwork. I've been sort of messing about, and you do get problems with it. I mean, I've been trying to get it to draw a church key, and no matter what prompt I put in, it's coming out with crossbows and everything. It's weird. It's quite difficult to get exactly what you want, isn't it?
Yeah, how it is. Again, it's that iterative process again with the artwork. I produced 9 pieces of artwork, one of which is a deliberate parody of AI, which some people have noticed and some people haven't. But again, 99% of it went in the bin. But but the thing is, it's unique. It's unique. People have said, why don't you just go on the internet and download and get something? Well, I could just go on the internet and nick somebody else's artwork, and I'll try and find something that's royalty free. But there's been 2 or 3 occasions in the past where a piece of artwork's been produced for one of our releases, and somebody's emailed me and say, "Oh, it's good. That's exactly the same artwork that we used 3 years ago." At least with the AI stuff, it's going to be unique, And because I went through that iterative process and had to do a bit of work in Photoshop, I personally have spent a lot more time on the artwork than I've ever done before. And so, ironically, it feels more personal to me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it did really well, didn't it? So let's go through the number ones. So Dark Waters, that was number one in the German alternative chart. In fact, you're doing really well in Germany, aren't you? Basically.
Yeah, it's just a shame we're not touring, really, because people have said, you can get a tour on the back of this. Yeah, we had four number ones. I think four of
Onwards.
the first five that were released in the German alternative charts got to number one, which I was astounded by, really, because I made no secret that it's AI. All the vocals are AI anyway.
Yeah.
It had features in Orcus magazine and Sonic Seducer, some of the big German publications for the scene.
Mm.
Um, so these people voting for it, they should know that the singer's not a real person.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem to bother them.
How did you come up with the look for Lucas?
With the what, sorry?
With his look.
Oh,
The look.
again, just booting ideas around. I thought, right, I thought, right, give me a picture of a middle-aged guy with a blue kingfisher haircut with an industrial background. And after a few attempts, it came up with Luca. He's sort of wearing a scarf, and he looked like the sort of person I sort of had in mind.
Mm.
And interestingly, from just that one original image of him and a photo of me, I've been able to create this CGI video where we're both in it moving around. It's all been created from these single still images.
Mm.
Yeah, and that's the sort of guy. That's what I want him to look like. He looks like he sounds, sort of things. He looks like he's probably he should be old enough to know better not to have kingfisher hair at his age,
Yeah.
But he looks the part.
Yes. Well, you've done a lot of remixes, haven't you, as well, for some quite big people like, let's have a list. Sigue Sputnik.
Yeah, Martin. Yeah, I've done about 150 now.
Yeah.
Yeah, big one for Martin Degville for Sigue Sputnik Electronic, as I think he calls himself. Yeah, I've done loads. Leather Strip, who I mentioned earlier, Freak Angel, Massive Ego,
Yeah.
Fuzzbox, even. Yeah. I've got I've got any in the pipeline. No, I've not got anything on the to-do list at the moment. So I used to put myself out there and say, if you want to remix, hit me up.
Yeah.
But it got a bit too much, really. All of a sudden, I was faced with like 7 remixes to do in 2 weeks, and I thought, hang on, if I'm not careful here, I'll start rushing these things, and the quality will suffer. So I'm trying to space them out a little bit
Yeah.
nowadays, and I need time to write some more original stuff with various collaborators anyway.
Is it quite difficult to get that balance between the original band's music and your own style of music?
Not really. I mean, I think what I do is I take a song. Someone said, "Can you remix this?" And I think, right. So if I'd written this song in the first place, if
Yeah.
I'd written this music in the first place, can't do lyrics, remember? If I'd written this in the first place, what would it sound like? And then that's what I go for. I don't try and make it better than the original. I just try and make it sound like the Nature of Wires track.
Right.
So that when, I've had situations on radio shows when the DJ will say, this is a remix for whoever, and I don't need to tell you who it's by, you'll probably be able to work it out, sort of thing. So that goes back to that signature
Yeah.
sound. I mean, I've got 5 or 6 sounds I just use in everything.
Have you ever done a remix where you've just been absolutely stuck on how to remix it?
Oh God, yeah. Oh yes. I mean, interesting. The best ones are the ones the ones I think are the best are the ones that have come together the quickest.
Yeah.
If I have to really labour on one, I've got a very low boredom threshold, so I like things to come together quite quickly. And if I have to really labour on a remix, I sort of start to lose interest a little bit. And what
Yeah.
I've got to do then is just walk away from it, unless there's a really tight deadline. Walk away from it for a week,
Yeah.
come back to it, and that invariably works. I then get that sort of kickstart to sort of drive it forward. I've had some to do where, obviously I'm not going to name names, but some of the vocals have been a little bit suspect, shall we say? So that can need a fair bit of work doing to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I've got a favourite one really. But yeah, some I would say are better than others. Some are easier than others.
Do you prefer working on your own in a studio, or do you like um, playing live as well? Which do you prefer?
They're two different things, really.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, when I'm creating things, I will do most of the work on my own,
yeah,
and I will present the basic structure and a bass line and a drum track to a vocalist and say, "Here you go. This is what I did yesterday.
yeah,
Take that forward, and then I'll build the rest of the music up around it." Um, Playing live, yeah, different experience. Good thing about playing live is by the time you get onto stage, all the hard work's sort of done,
yeah.
and then you can just relax and enjoy yourself. So yeah, I do enjoy playing live. We haven't played live regularly since before COVID. We did one in February 2022, and Andrew, Tim, and I are coming out of retirement for a one-off gig in May for the Beat Cancer charity, who we've always supported.
Oh, cool.
So we're trying to get together once a week, once every 2 weeks, because we're all a little bit rusty, but it's coming together slowly. And I also play keys occasionally for Deviant UK, who
Yeah,
I mentioned earlier. You know, to perform for one of the bands who inspired me to get back to music is
yeah,
quite a thrill. I also mentioned Cypherdyne, and Cypherdyne's guitarist slash songwriter, who's written some of the songs, is Adam Higginson, who also plays in Deviant UK. So to be on a stage with those two is just gives
mm.
you a buzz. And they tend to get bigger crowds than Nature of Wires anyway. So it is a fun experience. Mm.
Tell us about your work with the Fuzzbox Collective.
Yeah, I mean, I've known Mike Bennett from up in Manchester, Media City. He came to see Nature of Wires. Well, he didn't come to see us. He just happened to be in the pub. There was the Eagle in Salford, and he was there with his mate Simon, who was the drummer in the Fall. And they came through to where the gig was taking place, and he actually quite liked what he heard. So did a little bit with him about 6 years ago, and then we sort of lost touch over COVID. And then in 2022, he rang me because he had an IT query,
Right.
and then we got talking. And he said, "Oh, by the way, I'm the new singer in the Blockheads." Well, oh, really? All right. So spent the first. This was before he'd done his first Blockheads gig, so we spent a weekend just working on Blockhead songs, just trying to get him to learn all these songs in a real intense 2 or 3 days. Because I don't know how much you know about the Blockheads, but Ian Jury used to write a lot of words.
Yes. Yeah.
Mike had to learn all these. And then he said, "Oh, by the way, I'm working on some stuff with Maggie from Fuzzbox. You interested?" And I said, let's have a look." And we had a few sort of false starts. Only Maggie was the original. Maggie was the only original member of Fuzzbox involved in this project,
Yeah.
Which is why we gave it the name Fuzzbox Collective as opposed to Fuzzbox, because that needs Maggie and Vix apparently. And he got this vocalist in called Feruzi, and turns out Feruzi lives about 12 miles from me,
Oh, right.
and she's married to Bez.
Right.
So neighbours. And she is absolutely phenomenal. And we've also got Melanie Williams in as well, who had that massive hit in the 90s with Sub. Yeah, so we sort of assembled this collective of ladies. We got Sarit and Mimi, who were in Fuzzbox 10 years ago or so. And Jenny Tingle, who's a drummer slash flautist from Glasgow, who Maggie knew. Jenny was teaching Maggie how to learn the flute, how to play the flute.
Right.
And that's how that all sort of came together, sort of six of them. So yeah, that's been a different experience. It's interesting when you work in the more sort of professional end of the music industry. It's got its challenges, but we've actually come up with a really good album. Release date's April the 11th, and I'm really pleased with it.
Yeah, it's I've heard that stuff. It's really, really good. I say that about all your music, but it's true.
Yeah.
How do you think the world of music's changed since the 1990s in terms of, because everything's sort of gone digital now, hasn't it? In terms of like sales, record sales.
Yeah, the way it's consumed has changed beyond all recognition.
Mm.
obviously streaming sort of shot the bottom out of it as far as the independents go. Um, I say to people that nobody pays for music anymore. And then I heard the other week that more money was being spent on music than ever before, which is fine, but it's all going to the top 1%.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your Adele's, your Ed Sheeran's, and mega talented people, but it don't leave much for the rest of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think once you realize that, then you become a lot less wound up about it.
Yeah.
You've got to be either very lucky, you've got to be very good and very lucky to be in the right place at the right time, I think. Um, I there are some bands in our scene who are just brilliant, and you think, why have these people not been picked up by a Sony or a Universal or whatever?
Yeah.
I don't know, they just haven't. I mean, I suppose the record label thinks, can we make money out of these people or can we not?
Yeah. I
Yeah,
was talking to someone from a band. I can't remember which band. Oh, it was Paul from the Farm, and he
oh
was
yeah,
talking about Spotify and the way it works in terms of music and stuff like that. So you'll only get, obviously, it's a very, very small fraction of a penny per download, but you only even get that if the person playing the music plays it for at least 15 seconds.
that's right.
Yeah, and so obviously that's why I think a lot of music's changed now. So you've got to sort of grab them in the first 15 seconds.
Yeah,
And yeah, it's difficult to do that, isn't it?
you really do. Attention spans are shorter than ever, even mine. Yeah, you've got, these long drawn out instrumentals, ain't really going to cut it if you're looking to really sell yourself.
Mm.
If you're an established artist, you can do it. But yeah, you've really got to grab the attention in the first 5 or 6 seconds, really. Otherwise, they'll just go somewhere else.
Yeah.
In my Spotify stats aren't too bad compared to my peers, but they're not at a point where I can actually make any money at it.
Yeah.
I'm not totally against Spotify. I mean, it's my digital distributor. It's dirt cheap to put my music in front of a global audience.
Yeah.
But when you are doing your marketing, you've really got to find your target audience, be very specific. I mean, I
Mm.
pretty much know who my target audience is, but it's not always obvious. And if you start pitching to the wrong people, it doesn't just have a neutral effect, it actually has a negative effect. So you've got to
Mm.
get it right. And if you are going to spend any money on marketing and advertising, you're never going to get it back.
Yeah.
But I and most of my peers, I think we just want to be heard. We've all got day jobs. That's where we get
Yeah.
on. This is just our expensive hobby. We just want to be heard.
Well, just to recap, so Rise of the Light, that's the new single that was released on the 28th of March, and you can get that from Spotify, Take It, Bandcamp, and all the usual places.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's the last single to be released from the album. It's the final one on the album. It's the optimistic one. So there's a bit of a sort of theme behind the album, um, and it's all these things that sort of lead up to the apocalypse, and then you've got the resurrection afterwards. So
Ah,
you've got things like digital silence. Well, that was sort of inspired by that global IT outage caused by CrowdStrike. That was
right.
about the same time I started doing all this last year. And you've got the rise of AI, Skynet scenario sort of thing. I love the Terminator franchise. I'm just looking at the artwork up on the wall in front of me now. Yeah, you've got one about the state of the NHS in the UK. You've got one about corporate culture and how inhuman it can be. The migrant boat crisis, that's Dark Waters. Black and Veil is about cybercrime. Under the Radar is about tax dodgers. The Day It All Changed is Judgment Day, effectively, and then
Mm.
Rise of the Light is the resurrection after that, and the CGI video I've created for that shows people coming out of the rubble of buildings, looking all dazed and confused, and
Mm.
seeing what's left of what's around them. I even managed to shoehorn myself into that video. There's like a
That's
suit
all,
on
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
wearing my stage specs. And getting Luca's lip sync on that took me bloody ages. He's obviously not real. Yeah, that was good fun to do. It took hours. I wouldn't want to try and do that for a living, but it took absolutely ages to do it. But it's good fun.
Yeah. Is that why he puts his arms out like that? The resurrection part of it? Because he sort of spins around with his arms outstretched, doesn't he?
Yeah, that's right. I'm not just trying to make him look happy.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah, we've survived the apocalypse. Let's all celebrate the fact that we're still here, and let's,
Hmm.
let's look to rebuild. And the rise of the light is that symbolic sort of thing. The
Yeah.
light rising after the darkness.
So what's next? What's your next project?
Well, Andrew and I have started working on the next Nature of Wires album, which we're going
Oh,
to do. Going to try and release that next year.
yeah.
Now, next year is a pivotal year because we'll both be 60, as
Right.
will as will Tim, our drummer. We're all the same age, and it'll be 40 years since we wrote our first tune.
Ah.
So it's sort of like the 60/40 album. So I've suggested we call it 60/40, but we'll see. There's that. I'm working on some new songs with Annie from Machina X. Stevie Newton and I have got something planned. There's that. Yeah, so there's enough to keep me going for the rest of this year, certainly.
Excellent. Well, it's been a really interesting chat, mate. Thanks for sharing all these views with me and on the audience.
Yeah, well, good to meet you at last. Yeah, we've
Yeah.
sort of known each other for a while, haven't we?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it was Maggie from Fuzzbox, wasn't it? Who
Hmm.
introduced us to each other. Yeah, yeah. So it works, isn't it?
It is, mate. Well, thanks again. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, my pleasure.